Thank you very much for having me here. It's been quite an exciting trip to come to India. I'm often here. I'm a visiting professor at SET. And in 2010, my mum said, you know, there's a lot of stuff on smart cities in India. You should really go there. And I thought, wow, yeah, okay. When I got here, I realized that the 100 smart cities were yet to be developed and that there were marked territories for some exciting work. But there was a very interesting concept of what smart was, and I think, Vishan, you sort of, pretty much I mirror those sentiments. What does smart mean when we lack the smart citizens? So is it just about almost creating a technology that then reduces the amount of work that we have to do? So what is it that we are going to be doing? I was having a nice chat over there about how technology is going to be introduced in ways, even in the mining sector, where in 2 years' time, we're expecting that there will be no need for any human on a mine because there will be technology running the show. And it's a really fascinating time for us to experience this development, and so quick. Who thought that in a couple of years' time, AI will be this machine interface that pretty much makes a lot of the decisions that we need to make, even if it is in cities, using the data that we create as little nodes that are collected and networked and applied. And so cities have become digital in a way so quickly that unless if there is the ecosystem around them, what is the point? Well, firstly, I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you very much. Mahindra World Cities, McKinsey India. It has been a real pleasure to not only grow my understanding and appreciation of cities, but also to appreciate what economics is about today. I feel that the one thing that I missed in my economics degree was the kind of reality check of how practical economics was. At the time, it was about the scarcity of resources, and I think we've sort of shifted, especially with the introduction of psychology and economics, to behavioral economics, to an economics that is environmentally friendly, an economics that can be measured adjusting the GDP to the environment as well. So I begin my journey looking at something really specific. I started to question why economics was ruining the environment, why we had homeless people, why there were mountains of waste. And then I started to realize that underneath this economics is a philosophy, capitalism. I mean, it works to the T. The philosophy of capitalism with the physical environment that matches that, with the philosophy that underpins that, is correct. It works. However, not now. It was great back in the day when we needed it. Fantastic. It got us to the place that we needed to be. But now we're in a very different environment. We're in a different climate. We're in different challenges. We talk about these wicked problems. Wicked problems are multidisciplinary questions and opportunities in order for us to tackle multi-layered problems. These wicked problems need wicked solutions. And today we're in that time where these wicked solutions need to be at the forefront. So my challenge is, right, we've got this economic structure that is slightly inappropriate for what we need to do next. What's the philosophy that we can work with? What kind of philosophical vision can we create, even if we are to design the cities of the future? What are the philosophical underpinnings of the cities of the future? What are the economic indicators that we're going to be using? And so I came up with this idea that what if we were to live in harmony with nature? What does it mean? Like, honestly, no negative impact on the environment. How do we do it? The question then turned into a thesis, and before I knew it, I was doing a PhD, because it just so happens that I can't just ask a question and leave it there. Got super curious about it, and I wanted to know if there was a way that we could design future environments, future cities, future economies, future businesses, future products, future lifestyles that were in harmony with nature. And so I came across this idea that perhaps we need to live a life in harmony with nature. We need to replenish planet Earth. So the philosophy of replenishing planet Earth is at the basis upon which we then design, kind of like the Greeks. We design the agora for the marketplace and the economy. We design pnyx for the philosophical discussion, the confluence. We design the temple, the vision of the city. And so if we have Replenish Earth as the philosophy upon which we create an economic structure that is harmonizing with the environment, giving more than we're taking, and on top of which we design our cities, I think our cities would look incredibly different. So I started my research looking at 3 different strategies. I thought, well, what can we do right now? You know, we can design short, medium, and long-term solutions. So we could have cities that we were understanding what it meant not to waste. Circular economics is part of the solution, and circular economics is a sort of a transition away from climate change, specific problems, fossil fuel economies. How do we, for example, leverage asset models? We've all heard of Airbnb or business models like Uber that don't necessarily need to have cars or buildings, but they run because they're utilizing the empty buildings, or they run because we're utilizing cars that are otherwise sitting outside. So how do we leverage what we've got right now in the short term? In the medium term, how do we invest in cities? What kind of an environment do we create? What kind of in-between spaces do we want? What kind of known and unknown places do we want to create? And in the long term, it's about the diversity that we generate, biodiversity that we're supporting. I was in Mexico last year and I interviewed a gentleman called Jean-Michel Cousteau, and he has generations of, Jacques Cousteau, his father, have generations of environmental awareness campaigns and education campaigns, especially underwater. And I asked, you know, if there's one thing that you wish for everybody to know, what would that be? You know what he said to me at the age of 80? He said, you know, Tia, the only thing I really wish that people knew about was how beautiful the environment is. Like when you go underwater and, you know, the majority of it hasn't even been explored yet. I wish people could see that. But more than anything, I wish that people knew and realized that every part of this earth, every living and non-living entity on this earth makes what we are today. You know, the wind, the ground, the different animals, all of that makes who we are today. So if you take part of them out, and if they become extinct, then what makes us who we are becomes extinct. What makes us human is changed. And fundamentally, that diversity is what makes us who we are. Diversity is really fascinating for me because, of course, across the world, when you look at globalization, for example, some of the biggest challenges that we have, like, you know, what Vishan had mentioned earlier, is that we've got a globalized identity. It's almost as if it's a copy and paste. There's a model, it works, copy, paste over there. You know, there's a lot of cities in the world that have used this kind of scaling mechanism. Take Dubai, for example, creating glass structures in an otherwise extremely hot environment. I mean, I remember doing my research there. I'm walking down the street in about 50 degrees Celsius, burning my head and my shoes, and I was thinking, why would anybody want to live here? You know, if you want people to live in an environment like this, at least make it climate specific. So how do you design cities that are climate specific? How do you design the materials that are used in the city for it to be climate specific? More than anything, how do you design the city for all? And I think when it comes to diversity, I've learned that it's about perspectives, you know? It's about how do we develop a perspective? How do we create multiple perspectives? The city's not just for you and me. The city's for everything that lives in the city. It is open, it's an ecosystem. So a city, for example, one where you feel comfortable, potentially middle class, one where the lower classes are also welcome, one where those that are visitors and guests to the city are welcome, and one where the future guest is also welcome. And I think what's really a beautiful thing at the moment is where we shift perspectives in the city, and we're able to do that. So for example, a lot of our cities are designed with the center out, right? Kind of like an internal kind of core. Other polycentric cities may have multiple centers, and we're sort of shifting to a more sort of dynamic, multi-central sort of location, almost reducing the kind of a decentralized city, reducing the power just on the center. Like Doxiadis used to say, that the heart of the city can only handle a certain size of body. When you go beyond that, you need another heart. And I think what we're doing right now is by creating that diversity, we're reducing the need only to have one central core, or one central power station, or one central mechanism or political governance structure. I think this is going to cost a lot of money to do. and it's about educating people and having the level of finance that we need to be able to blend in different investment strategies. And I think the World Economic Forum has got its own opinion about this, using 2.5 trillion as a sort of figure to introduce the idea of investing in these sort of multi-layered cities. I think the challenge today is also to incorporate sustainable development goals. Some of the work that Jeffrey Sachs has done at the Earth Institute is about the sort of evolution of the environmental capture measurement tactics in order for them to be included in the environment city. But I think our challenge is what we think a city is. I think we're a little bit maybe archaic in our thinking of what a city is. You know, who defined what a city was? Why do we need to call it city anymore? You know, we've got cities that are so big, I'm not too sure whether we can call them cities anymore. Are they ecosystems, perhaps? The city has developed and changed and morphed. It's become a place of surveillance, of control, of network, of data points. It's a known space, sometimes an unknown space. They're places where we transition from and into. Sometimes we don't spend that much time in them. Other buildings we spend all of our time. Perhaps there's one desk in a week that you spend most of your time sitting at. So these transitions between buildings or cities are really important, because what they do is they create a sense of known and unknown. Think of your life. How much of your time do you know exactly where your schedule is going to be? And at other times where you don't know at all. Which do you enjoy the most? Is it the control and the routine, or is it the fact that you have no idea what's going to happen tonight? And the excitement of it. Where do you balance the known aspects of the city and the unknown aspects? The known aspects, data points, you can get information, you can make decisions on those data points, you can trend, you can forecast. The unknown, you can't really do that, but what you can do is ideate. You can create mesmerizing situations, especially if you have a clear platform for those transition spaces where you can capture ideas, where you can create and morph these ideas and implement different experimentations. I think one of the most exciting cities in the world has actually been Masdar City for me, where you can actually negotiate different aspects of what is controlled and planned, technology that is focused on hermetically sealed buildings where there is no behavior in a building like that. You can't open the window. You can't change the temperature on the set point. You know, your interaction with that building is very one way. So what's the future for places like this? What kind of cities can we actually create, or ecosystems can we create? How can we make them independent? How can we factor in the unknown environments where those transitions occur, where people meet and serendipity occurs? Where is it that we can challenge what it means to have created smart environments, not by technology, but smart because we're actually expanding what it means to be smart? Where can we design so that we're not designing for failure, but actually inviting a discussion about the future, not just of technology? And so we come to emerging tech. A lot of the different kinds of technology, like artificial intelligence or blockchain, is being introduced and sort of thrown around as if it's a kind of a piece of cake that you should all try. Yes, we should try it, but we should also be aware that there are some kinds of technology that when you go in that direction, you can't turn back. And that's one of the reasons why the two AIs that were talking to each other, an experiment that was done by Mark Zuckerberg was actually switched off by Elon Musk, because they started to talk quite rapidly in a language that no human could understand. And I think that's the thing. Where is it that we do understand? What are the boundaries through which we understand technology? What are the social structures that we can create, that we can question what this technology is actually for, instead of just accepting it? Blockchain can be used for a multitude of things. So, for example, we can use it to track supply chains. We can know exactly where the food has come from, reducing the level of corruption that happens in between these nodes. We can even use it for land tenure, so documenting who owns what in a system that is decentralized. So it's, as soon as the electricity goes off or the building, unfortunately is affected by an earthquake, there is another place that we can find that information. So if a flood comes, that doesn't mean that you've lost everything, and including your land and the proof that you had of your land. We are evolving into a stage where we're becoming conscious, digitally conscious, and that digital consciousness is also extending our ability for human consciousness. We're machine computing in our own heads. We use Google as a verb, and we communicate by using these kinds of technological devices. We're extending our abilities. Who doesn't have a a smartphone in this room. We're almost out of time. Smart tech is a really fascinating opportunity to sort of extend what it means to grow with nature, with an opportunity to sort of shift what kind of metrics we want to include in our decision making. It gives us an opportunity to not only connect with our environment, but allow our environment to connect with us. We're not here to control it, we're here to merge with it. We're here to negotiate who we are and the boundaries that we have in between us. Many of the beautiful cities of the world are actually cities that may not be as appropriate today as they were at the time. But if we look at examples like Magarpata Master Plan and the design of the city in Pune, I think one of the things that I loved the most out of learning of this project was that there was a lot of community participation. It was community owned, it was community built, and it continues to be. And that is incredible, not only for this generation that had actually, that owns a share and are members, but the next generation that were invited in to be part of the next phase of development. The next generation, so anyone between the age of 18 and 30 were invited into the conversation and asked, okay, but what do you want out of this? How do we design this city for you? I think that I'm going to be pushed off the stage soon. Cities are an opportunity for us to imagine what a lifestyle can be in the future. And if you could design a lifestyle, an experience, how would you design it, not only for yourself, but for others? I think we are sometimes limited, but only in our imagination. Thank you.
Don't go away. Would you mind stepping on the stage, please?
I'm in trouble.
Yes, you just became one of our favorite speakers for extensively mentioning things that are part of the Mahindra Sustainability Framework. The approach that we follow is to give back more than you take, and that seemed to be the place that you started out from. And just in case you think I'm making it all up, that framework sort of exists.
Oh, wow.
But that's not why I asked you to be here on stage. I asked you to be here on stage because I'm going to request Ms. Sangeeta Prasad, the Managing Director and CEO of Mahindra Life Spaces and the member of the Group Executive Board of the Mahindra Group, to give you a memento as a token of our appreciation.